If your landfill gas contract is coming to an end, are the decisions that you're making right now setting you up to be in the best position for the next 25 years? Because most landfill owners go straight back to their existing operator, accept a revised rent figure and simply sign. And the gap between what they settle for and what their site is actually worth can run into hundreds of thousands of pounds over the life of a new contract. I'm Travis Ben, co-founder of Lumify Energy, and after working inside a leading UK renewable energy operator, I've watched how operators prepare for contract end negotiations months, sometimes years in advance. And in almost every case, the pattern is the same. The operator arrives well prepared, but the landfill owner arrives with no market research, no legal analysis, and no understanding of what their landfill gas site is genuinely worth in today's market. So in this video, I'll walk you through the main options available to you at the end of a landfill gas contract and what each one means for your land, so you can walk into that negotiation knowing exactly what you're entitled to. The first and easiest option is to do nothing. No new agreement, no formal notice, just allow the operator to keep running the landfill gas project after the contract has expired. Most landfill owners who end up here don't do it deliberately. A 20-year contract sits in a drawer and it runs until that date arrives and nobody notices. The operator carries on and the landfill owner assumes it's a temporary holdover while both parties figure out the next steps. What the landfill owner doesn't know is that the operator knows exactly what that arrangement means legally. Every month it continues, the operator's legal position on the land gets stronger. Operators are also not obliged to say anything, especially if staying quiet protects their position. And while they do, one of two legal situations takes hold. The first is a tenancy at will. This is where the operator remains on site with the landowner's implied consent, and either party can give notice at any time to end it. On the surface, that sounds like a workable situation, but in practice, it means that the operator retains exclusive possession of the site, and as the landfill owner, you cannot enter the land. You cannot bring in another operator to assess the site, and you cannot grant access to any third party. You are effectively locked out of your own land for as long as the tenancy continues. The second situation is more serious. It's called a periodic tenancy. A periodic tenancy is a rolling tenancy with no defined end dates, and it typically takes hold when negotiations stall and no new contract can be agreed. Under a periodic tenancy, the operator has the opportunity to acquire a protected business tenancy under the Landlord and Tenant Act 1954. That gives your operator the legal right to remain on your land indefinitely. And if the operator has been on site for more than 14 years up to this point, then removing them can require you to pay financial compensation equal to twice the rateable value of the premises. Now, for some landfill gas projects, that figure could exceed £250,000. This is why doing nothing is the worst position you can be in. It hands control of your landfill gas project over to the operator with nothing formal in place. So what should you actually do? Pull out your contract and check if you still have 18 to 24 months remaining. This is the point to review the contract, understand whether the operator has security of tenure, and to decide whether you want to renew the contract, renegotiate terms, replace the operator, or potentially bring the landfill gas project in-house. And if the contract has already expired, you should seek specialist advice immediately before the operator continues operating and strengthens their legal position further. Renewing the contract with your existing operator is often the right decision. It keeps the landfill gas project running, secures your income for a defined period, and avoids the disruption of bringing in someone new. But how you renew the contract matters just as much as whether you do. The most common mistake landfill owners make at this stage is treating the existing contract as the baseline, and rightfully so. It feels logical. You've had a good working relationship for 20 or more years with your operator, the terms are familiar, and the operator presents a renewal on broadly similar conditions, so you sign. What that approach misses is that the market has changed entirely since the original terms were agreed. The landfill gas industry has matured, technology has improved, electricity prices, subsidy structures, and industry regulators are all different from what they used to be when the contract was first negotiated. The rent that seemed reasonable in 2005 is very likely below where it is in the market today. And signing a renewal that locks you into those outdated terms for another 20 or more years means carrying that gap to the full length of the new agreement. Say your original contract secured a rent of £30,000 a year, and you are now offered a renewal rent of £45,000. That's a 50% increase. That might sound excellent, but a proper market assessment of similar landfill gas projects might reveal that sites with similar gas yields and grid connection are actually achieving £65,000 to £70,000 a year. That difference of £20,000 to £25,000 compounds annually over a 20-year period, creating a shortfall of up to £500,000. Not because anyone has acted dishonestly, but because the operator presented terms that suited their financial model. And you didn't check those terms against the market before signing. Renewing the contract is also the right moment to update the structure of the agreement itself, not just the rental figures. Laws change, planning regulations have evolved, and the protections that were adequate when your original contract was drafted may no longer reflect current market conditions. So a renewal is an opportunity to address all of that, to negotiate a rent review mechanism, to update liability clauses, clarify the decommissioning obligations, and ensuring that the agreement reflects your needs as a landfill site owner, rather than accepting the position you were in when you had less information and less leverage. There's also a practical benefit for longer renewals, but only if the terms are right. A longer contract can deliver more total income as the site matures and the gas yields reduces. It can also provide security if you're seeking to optimize assets for estate planning purposes or as part of a broader land strategy. But a longer contract signed on weak terms is not a benefit. It's a commitment to underperformance at scale. So before you agree to any renewal, get an independent assessment of what your site is actually worth in today's market. That figure is the starting point for negotiations, not the operator's opening offer. When your landfill gas contract ends, you are not obligated to stay with the same operator. Even if they've been on your site for 20 or more years, you have the right to bring in someone new or to run the project yourself. The challenge is that many landfill site owners assume that once a tenant has been on the site long enough, they are essentially permanent. That assumption can cost you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds in reduced income. Now, if your site operator has security of tenure, removing them requires a formal process. You can't simply ask them to leave when the contract expires. You may need to apply through the courts, and you will have to demonstrate that you have the intention and the ability to develop the site yourself or continue operating the project under a new subcontractor. There's also a financial consideration. That is a fee to remove a protected tenant, which can run into tens of thousands of pounds. That is not insignificant. But when you compare it to how much income a well-managed landfill gas project can generate over the next 10 to 15 years, that fee no longer seems like a barrier that it first appeared to be. However, if you opted out of sections 24 to 28 of the Landlord and Tenant Act 1954, when the original contract was signed, the process is far simpler. You won't need to give any written notice before the contract ends, as the contract will automatically end. It's simple. No court process, no compensation payment. So before you do anything else, find your original contract and check if the operator has security of tenure. That single term can significantly determine how much negotiation leverage you have. Now, if you decide to bring in a new operator, start the process early, at least 18 months before your current contract ends. Research other landfill gas projects and approach operators who have a good track record of running projects. Once you have shortlisted operators, review their proposals carefully. Not just the rent offer, but how they plan to manage the site, whether they can mobilize equipment quickly, and what their financial backing looks like. You will also need to work with the new operator to secure any additional consents, grid connection, and permits that are required before they can take over and continue operating the project. If you're considering running the project in-house, the first step is identifying equipment suppliers who can maintain and operate landfill gas infrastructure reliably. After that, you'll need to secure an electricity off-taker, carry out financial due diligence, and if the project is not self-funded, identify potential funders. Once the financial structure is in place, you'll also need to extend the planning permission, obtain the grid connection and other relevant permits. When you give notice to your current tenant, you can then agree a decommissioning plan or negotiate to purchase the existing equipment. The key point of all of this is that changing landfill gas operator or bringing a project in-house is always possible. The security of tenure status of your existing contract will determine the variety and complexity of your options. But in either case, starting early and understanding exactly where you stand legally is what separates landfill owners who manage this transition on their own terms from those who end up in a receptive position. So pull out your contracts now and check if your tenant has security of tenure. If you're not sure, our site scan service can help you do that. We will assess your contract, identify any exposure, and tell you what your realistic options are before you commit to anything. Get in touch with us using the link in the description below. Most landfill owners approaching the end of their landfill gas contract are focused entirely on what happens when the existing project ends. Very few stop to ask what else the land might be capable of. That is a missed opportunity, and in some cases, a significant one. Here is a situation many landfill owners are actually sitting on. If your landfill gas project has been running for more than 20 years, it's likely that a section of the landfill site has already been capped and closed. The ground above that capped section may have been partially restored, and that restored ground is often sitting idle, generating nothing. That land is not just unused, it could be viable for a solar farm or in the right location, a small wind energy project. Other sites have successfully added a second project on their land that was previously considered redundant within the footprint of the existing landfill gas area. This isn't to say it's easy. Ground stability, gas extraction infrastructure, and planning conditions all have to be carefully assessed. But those complications have been navigated before, and specialist developers are experienced in doing exactly that. Now, the question of when to pursue this matters. If your contract is still live and your existing operator has rights over the wider site, you may need their consent before adding a new project. But if the contract is coming to an end and you are renegotiating the terms, this is precisely the moment to carve it out. A well-drafted renewal can include a clause that explicitly reserves your right to develop a second project on specific parcels of land independent of the landfill gas operator. If you are bringing in a new operator, you negotiate that right from the start. Either way, the time to establish it is during the contract negotiations, not after you've already signed. And if the contract has already expired without a formal agreement in place, you may already have that freedom by default, though taking any action without first understanding your legal position would be a mistake. And the numbers make a compelling case for exploring this. Land that is not actively generating income is still incurring costs for management time and maintenance costs. A second project on a capped section of a landfill site can turn that position completely around. Over a 20 to 30 year solar contract, the additional income from even a modest installation can run into hundreds of thousands of pounds. So, before your contract renewal is finalized, look at the full footprint of your landfill gas project, not just the section currently covered by the landfill gas agreement. Identify any land that has been capped, restored, or is otherwise underutilized. Then ask whether a second project is technically feasible and whether the terms of your renewal protect your right to pursue it. If you're not sure where to start, speak to someone with experience across both landfill gas and renewable energy development before you sign anything. Now, we've covered several options that are available to you at the end of a landfill gas contract. From the legal traps of doing nothing to renegotiating on your own terms and locking in a second project that might be sitting idle. But knowing your options is one thing. Knowing which ones to apply to your particular situation in the right order before any deadlines pass is exactly what determines how this plays out. And the 5 things in the next video are exactly what I'd advise any landfill owner to think about the moment they realize that their contract is coming to an end. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.